How would you handle team conflict? What would you do if such situation arises? These are some very common manager interview questions at Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. Today, I'm going to show you how to answer any team conflict related question with confidence. Hi, I am Vinay Bansal, Engineering Manager at Google. With my experience as Engineering Manager and Senior Engineering Manager at Google, Nike, and leading engineering teams, I've conducted hundreds of interviews and have cleared management interviews of a dozen of top tech companies. I am here to give you practical, no-nonsense advice that actually works. So let's get started. Let's start by understanding the intention behind this question. This is one of the favorite questions of interviewers. The main reason is that the single question can evaluate multiple competencies of a manager. First, leadership and maturity. Are you someone who steps up when things get tough? They want to see a leader who can truly navigate challenges gracefully. Your problem solving and analytical skills? Can you accurately diagnose the root cause of a conflict? Then there's communication and empathy. This is absolutely critical. How well do you listen? Truly listen to all sides involved. Can you understand and acknowledge different perspectives and feelings and underlying needs even when you don't personally agree with them? Your ability to act and resolve is also critical. While it's important to be thoughtful and not rush, they also want to see that you are proactive. As you can see, one small question would give interviewers a massive window into what kind of manager you are. They might spend 30 minutes or more on just this single question. Let's start by learning how to actually manage a team conflict. The first step will be to acknowledge and assess. You should be able to identify if there's a conflict in the team. A conflict can be overt, like raised voices in a meeting or direct angry emails, but it can also be covert, meaning team members are avoiding each other, there's a drop in collaboration, deadlines are skipping on joint tasks, or you notice passive-aggressive comments. Be attuned to both. If you are not able to proactively identify the conflicts, these might be brought to your attention by one of the teammates. Once you recognize the signs, you need to assess, is this a minor disagreement that the team members might resolve on their own? Or is it a deeper issue that's impacting morale, productivity, or psychological safety? Knowing when to step in is an art of a great manager. If it's a small issue, empower your team to try and work it out. But if it's escalating or causing real problems, that's your cue to intervene. Next step, and your first in actually resolving the conflict, is individual understanding. This means scheduling separate private conversations with each person involved. The purpose here is paramount: to create a safe, confidential space where each individual can share their full perspective, their feelings, and their concerns without interruption and without fear of immediate judgment and rebuttal. Your role in these one-on-ones is to be an active listener. Summarize what they are saying to ensure you understand. You could use phrases like, "So if I'm hearing you correctly, when X happened, you felt Y because of Z. Is that right?" Use phrases like, "Tell me more about that aspect," or "Help me understand what you're thinking here." You would also need to ensure that the team members feel safe to take interpersonal risk, meaning that they won't be embarrassed, rejected, or punished for speaking up their ideas, questions, concerns, or even admitting their mistakes. This environment, where team members feel secure enough to take such risk, is what we call psychological safety. Take notes from these discussions and prepare your data by adding some facts and metrics to it. This will better help you prepare for later conversations. Now, based on your one-on-one meetings and fact findings, if it seems like a joint meeting is necessary, then you will need to first prepare for a facilitation. Such direct conversation is often essential for true resolution. Make sure to prepare for this meeting and give some time to both parties by scheduling the meeting in advance. Don't just call for an impromptu meeting. Define the desired outcome for that meeting. What do you hope that they will achieve by talking together? Is it a specific decision, a better understanding, or an agreement on how to move forward? Also, before the start of the meeting, establish clear ground rules depending on the severity of the issue and feeling of the parties. Some examples of these ground rules are: we're here to understand each other, not to assign blames. We will focus on the issue, not on the personalities, or no personal attacks. Maintain respect even when disagreeing. Again, you will need to prepare these based on actual issue and how both parties are feeling. If the parties are senior and mature, some of these ground rules might be implicitly understood and not required. Alright, it's time for the resolution meeting. Your role in most of these meetings should be neutral facilitator, not the judge who declares a winner and a loser. Your job for most of the meeting should be to guide the process, keep the conversation constructive, and help team members find their own path to resolution. You also need to make sure that a common resolution that they are arriving at is good for those team members as well as the whole team. Here's a general flow of such meetings that often works. Reiterate common goals. Allow articulation, give everyone a chance to express their perspective on the issue. Identify the core problem together. Guide them to collaboratively define the actual problem that they need to solve. Brainstorm potential solutions. Encourage them to generate multiple potential solutions. No need to settle for the first idea. Push for creativity. Evaluate solutions. Once you have a list of options, help them in evaluating those. Finally, guide them to agree on the best path forward. Make sure to get clear commitments from everyone. I've seen many managers considering the agreement meeting as the resolution of the conflict. This is also one of the main reasons of managers failing the management interview even after doing very well. Even with an agreement, your work isn't quite done. Follow-up and reinforcement are key to making sure that the resolution sticks. In the days and weeks after the meeting, discreetly check in with the individuals involved. See if the agreed upon actions are happening and how things are progressing. When you see positive changes like improved collaboration or team members applying the agreed solutions, do acknowledge and reinforce the positive behavior. A simple, "Great to see you both working so well together on X" could go a long way. Managing conflict effectively doesn't just put out fires, it builds a stronger, more resilient team. It fosters an environment where team members feel heard, respected, and become more capable of navigating disagreements constructively on their own in the future. This is proactive and impactful leadership. Now that you have a solid playbook for actually managing team conflict, let's learn how to take real-world experience and share it with your interviewer during people management interviews. When interviewer asks you a question regarding managing team conflict, sharing your personal example is gold. It's your proof of competency and experience. Anyone can share theories, but your story is where you show you have actually navigated through these complex situations. It's tangible evidence of your abilities. More senior and experienced you are, more complex examples you'll be having. Also, if you are interviewing for senior management roles like director or above, the interviewer would expect that maturity to be reflected in your examples and would dig deeper into those examples to understand your management style. It also connects better with the interviewer. People often remember stories far better than dry facts or generic statements. You'll be able to create a strong impact on the interviewer with your storytelling skills. To structure your example, implement the learnings from our previous section to the story and present it to the interviewer. I like to use a simple framework: CARE. In this context, CARE would stand for context, analysis, resolution, and evaluate. Let's see how that works. C is for context. Clearly set the scene and provide context. For example, you might say, I was leading a cloud engineering team of 6 responsible for a critical new platform service. Two of my most senior engineers, both highly respected for their technical skills, had developed strong conflicting opinions on the core data migration strategy for a new under development service from the legacy service. This wasn't just a casual debate. Their disagreement was creating a bottleneck for other dependent tasks, and tension was becoming noticeable to the rest of the team. This was impacting our sprint velocity and overall morale. You can get into more details on how you identify the conflict. Make sure to put emphasis on the fact that you proactively acted on identifying and monitoring the situation. You can also add details on what was its actual or potential impact on the project or the team. A is analysis. Share your analysis and understanding of the root cause. You might say, to understand the full picture, I scheduled separate one-on-ones with each engineer. In those sessions, I made sure to create a safe space for them to share openly. Asking clarifying questions like, can you help me understand your main concern about the alternative approach? And what would an ideal outcome here look like for you and the project? I focused on listening to their concerns and trying to identify their underlying needs. I discovered the disagreement wasn't purely technical, but also involved unvoiced concerns about future workload distribution related to each proposed solution. This hadn't surfaced in the group discussions earlier. Mention what steps did you take to get everyone's perspective in an unbiased way. Put emphasis on the research and the fact-finding also that you did beyond the one-on-one meetings. R is resolution and results. Demonstrate how you resolve the conflict. For example, based on my analysis, I facilitated a joint working session with both engineers. I structured the meeting to ensure both could present their viewpoints and guided them to collaboratively explore alternative solutions that balance design aspirations with technical feasibility. The resolution was a hybrid solution that addressed both the technical requirements and the workload concerns. This not only resolved the immediate conflict but also led to the project being completed on schedule. The resolution should sound a clear success story. Discuss about the outcome and impact of the resolution on the team and our project. Don't forget to point out that you made sure to discreetly do follow-ups and check-ins week after the session and made sure that things are going smoothly as planned. E is evaluate. Share the evaluation and learnings from your story. For example, this experience taught me the importance of proactively ensuring clarity on technical decision-making ownership early in the projects. As a preventive measure, I worked with the team to establish clearer guidelines for architectural proposals and review, which has helped me avoid similar deep-seated disagreements since. The learnings from any such example should make you a better manager, and this should reflect in your answer. This part can elevate you from a good manager into a great one. Here's a pro tip when it comes to your interview examples. This is something that many candidates fail to implement strategically. Once you have prepared a strong conflict resolution story, you have basically detailed a scenario where you have demonstrated multiple management skills like leadership, decision making, and emotional intelligence. So you can adapt this story example for similar behavioral questions. For instance, if you are asked, tell me about a time you witnessed disagreements within your team, or describe a time when you had to influence others. Some such examples might also fit in questions related to difficult conversations. In many of these questions, your well-prepared conflict story might be a perfect fit, perhaps with a slight shift in emphasis depending on the question. This is smart preparation for these interviews. It allows you to leverage your strongest, more detailed examples effectively. However, and this is a crucial however, be strategic and use good judgment. While you can adapt an example for related competencies, it goes without saying that you shouldn't use the same example for wildly different types of questions. Another, more important point is to strictly avoid using the same example in different questions for the same company, especially during the same interview. The questions and answers during the interview are documented and then often shared between all your interviewers. Interviewers at top tech companies like Google, Microsoft, and Facebook are looking for both depth and breadth of experiences. If they find the examples are being repeated, they might draw a conclusion that you have a limited range of experiences to draw from, making you seem inch deep and mile wide. So, the takeaway is have multiple really well developed pillar stories like your conflict resolution one that showcases multiple skills. Understand which competencies each story highlights and be ready to tailor them to specific question asked. Before we wrap up, let's quickly cover some common and crucial mistakes I've seen managers make that often lead to their rejection. First, playing the blame game. Never use your answer to speak negatively about former colleagues, managers, or company. The focus should always be on the situation, your actions, your thought process, and your learnings, not on assigning fault to others. Make sure your tone throughout is very positive. Second, presenting an unresolved or negatively resolved conflict. Generally, you would want to choose examples where a resolution was reached, ideally a positive one due to your intervention. Focusing only on problem. Never in any of the interviews present a problem without a good solution. The solution of the problem you help discover is more important than the problem itself. Getting lost in technical details. Especially for us in engineering, it is easy to get lost in technical details. But remember that this is a management interview to assess your people management skills. Unless you are asked to, don't get so bogged down in the technical jargon that you fail to highlight how you manage the human elements. Lastly, and the most important one, faking an experience or lying. This might be tempting if you feel you don't have a perfect real-world example, especially if you are new to management. Please don't do it. Interviewers at Google, Microsoft, and other top companies have conducted thousands of interviews. They are very skilled at drilling down into details. Inconsistencies or a lack of depth in fabricated story can often be caught. The damage to your credibility if you are caught lying is immense and usually interview ending. What to do instead, especially for beginner managers? Honesty is always the best policy. If you genuinely don't have a direct conflict example, you can say something like, Neil, thankfully I haven't encountered a conflict of that exact scale yet in my direct management experience. However, if such a situation were to arise, here's how I would approach it based on my understanding and the principles I operate by. Then, you can walk them through the steps from our playbook. This shows your thought process, your proactiveness in thinking about such scenarios, and your maturity in being honest. It's far better than risking your candidacy by inventing a story. Okay, we've covered how to effectively manage teen conflict by understanding individual perspective and facilitating solutions. I can personally guarantee you that if you follow these strategies, you'll be able to answer this question exceptionally well and will also be a better manager. If this video was helpful to you, do like this video and subscribe to the channel. If there's any specific topic that you want me to cover, or if you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much.